Ladies and gentlemen, I can have your attention, please. We're calling tonight's meeting to order. I think today's date is March 25th, 2025. Oh yeah, I have a microphone. Just so we can get it on the record. In case you didn't hear me, I am calling this meeting to order. And I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. Look forward to having a good meeting and discussing our business. Our first item is to review our meeting. Let's see, that's the work session, is approval of the agenda. If I could have a
motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
thank you. A vote, please.
Aye.
Aye. Our next item, oh, my microphone's still on, good, is to approve the minutes from our February 25th meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes from the February 25th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting as written.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. A vote, please.
Aye.
Aye, aye. All in favor. Thank you. Unanimous. All right, tonight we are going to address RZ 24-04, LUP 24-02. And bear with me, please, for a few minutes. I'm going to read some notes on how we're going to conduct our meeting tonight. Again, good evening. Thank you for being here. And I want you to be assured that the applications that come before us for review and consideration have already gone through quite extensive and highly detailed process, which is affected by our Planning and Development Department. These meetings provide an opportunity for public exposure and comment, whether for or against that which is before us. In order to assure that everyone has an equal opportunity to be heard and to minimize distractions, I will now ask you to silence your phones or any electronic devices that you have for the remainder of the meeting. If you are a doctor on call or you are pregnant, I will excuse you from that. Please note that this is an official public meeting at which important city business is being conducted and that we are herewith engaged in a legal process. Let me now review the procedures that we will follow. The Director of the Planning and Development Department, Mr. Jason Thompson, will begin by first presenting to all of us an overview of the project and the specific request being made by the applicant. He will then respond to questioning from the Commission. The applicant will then be afforded 15 minutes to make their presentation. Any allotted time not used for that presentation will be reserved for rebuttal if necessary, and to respond to questions and concerns as voiced by you, the public. Upon completion of the applicant's presentation, we will open the floor for public comment, first to those wishing to state their support for the project, and then to those who claim opposition. A total of 15 minutes will be allotted for all public comments. Accordingly, please be focused and direct with your comments so that others are also able to speak. If there are common concerns, please consider utilizing a spokesperson. I don't think we have to worry about that tonight. By remaining in this room at this meeting, you hereby agree to the following guidelines. Outcries, clapping, whistling, and any other form or method of demonstrative behavior is neither allowable nor acceptable, so kindly refrain from doing so. When you come forward to the podium, please speak directly into the microphone, as I'm trying to do now. You will first provide your name and address for all to hear. You will then direct your comments to myself and the other commissioners, and not to the applicant or to any other person in attendance. You may only speak once regarding the application at hand, so please be as precise, thorough, to the point, and prompt as possible. Kindly present your comments in a fair and reasonable manner, and be sure to focus only on the topic or issue at hand. Be mindful that anger and poor attitudes serve no purpose and have no place in these chambers. Again, please be as brief and to the point as possible, keeping in mind the time limits we are working with, knowing that there may well be others who also wish to speak. If commission members ask questions of you, it will not be deducted or counted against your time. Upon closing of the public comments, the applicant may, as previously mentioned, use the remaining time for rebuttal and response. A commission member will then offer a motion, and I will request a second to that motion. If the motion carries, discussion among the commissioners will ensue, if appropriate or necessary, after which time a vote on the matter will be called. Again, I sincerely appreciate your attendance and your participation. Let us proceed then with the business before us. Mr. Thompson, will you come review this case for us, sir?
Give me 1 second. All right. Thank you, Planning Commission and the public for being here tonight. We have one case. It's RZ 25-03 and LUP 25-01. It's a request for a rezoning and land use plan amendment at 2587 and 2597 Lenora Church Road. It's approximately...
Wait, Jason, can I stop you?
Yes, sir. Did we miss something?
My notes say RZ 24-04 and LUP 24-02. I want to make,
The wrong heading.
okay.
Which one is it, John? I want to make...
It's 25-03, RZ 25-03, AEP 25-01.
Might have been a mistake.
Agenda is incorrect.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Good to go. All right. So
But hang on, can you give me the numbers again, just so when we're ready to
Yes,
do
please
motions at
repeat
the
that.
end, we're actually stating the correct? Thanks.
John, will you speak out loud and tell us?
Yes. Case number is RZ 25-03, LUP 25-01.
Great, thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
all right. Back to it. Tax parcels 5-0 or 5027001 and 5027001E. Current zoning is RS30. Requested zoning is RX mixed residential with a current future land use map designation of residential low density and a requested designation of medium density for a total of 70 lots, 28 single-family detached and 42-unit single-family attached townhomes are located. In the middle, the property owners are Chris Duzick and Soren S. Thomas Living Trust, with the applicant being the Revive Land Group. Here is represented by Mahaffey Pickens Tucker and Shane Lanham out of Lawrenceville, Georgia. Our recommendation is approval with conditions. We'll just go over some site findings of facts. Did most of that. The proposed, we talked about the site area, the location, the total number of units, and overall density, gross density, 4.62 units an acre, just a hair over the 4 cap on low density residential, and puts it into a medium density residential, which is caused by the mix of the two housing types. So the proposed development site is 1/4 mile south from the Henry Clower Boulevard, is adjacent to the park, and basically across the street from Maple Drive. Again, the applicant is requesting to amend the future land use map, the zoning map, and there is also a variance from the UDO in regards to ground coverage. The 2045 Comprehensive Plan Future Development Map places this entirely in the No Business Creek character area per the February 26, 24 adoption of the 2045 Comprehensive Plan. The following page provides a description for the No Business character area. Existing character area is just south of the town center off Lenore Church Road. No Business Creek is the spine of the neighborhood and is dotted with small lines, lakes, ponds, wooded areas, and private green space. The area is made up entirely of single-family homes. Even along major roads, most are well-maintained ranch homes on large lots. Many of the roads in this area are cul-de-sacs and have few sidewalks. The vision is for a vibrant residential community with high rates of home ownership. No Business Creek is a neighborhood with strong pedestrian and bicycle connections to downtown and the adjacent area. Its streets are quiet with minimal cut-through traffic. The key implementation strategies are expand sidewalks within neighborhoods, tame cut-through traffic, continue to enforce code enforcement, and maintain a 50-foot stream buffer along No Business Creek. Focus on reinforcing neighborhood stability by encouraging more home ownership and maintenance or upgrade of existing properties. As mentioned in the applicant's letter of intent, the proposed development is compatible with the surrounding land uses and in line with the policies and goals to encourage compatible uses, both residential and commercial. These are residential uses in a residential area. Encourage the construction of housing to support all age groups, incomes, and lifestyles, which we believe the development attempts to solve, and encourage the development of diversity of housing types. I will speak about the zoning map amendment a little bit. We've got, this is the RX mixed residential is a new zoning district. It was, when I say new, 2020 adoption of the UDO, but has never been applied for. It is intended to provide a mix of housing types in areas where public water and sewer are available and where direct access to collector streets, major streets, and state routes, which Lenora Church is. The district allows for a maximum gross density of 8 units per acre and requires a 20% of the total site be set away for open space. You can see the different housing types that are shown. It shows the building placement of the single family with the detached homes, and then the placement regarding the typical townhome layout. They did provide some building elevations. What you could expect the townhomes to look like. Looks like 2-car garages on all, and this is just some basic elevations of the single-family detached, mostly 2 stories it looks like, in order to provide more living space with a couple of garages as well. I'll let the applicant opine about that a little bit more about the home design. It's pretty typical building materials that we see these days. They are requesting a couple variances, or really it's just one variance, but it applies to both housing types. They're requesting that the yard area for maximum capacity, and this is a requirement for all small residential buildings, so we put this one in there and it covers single family, all the different housing types, and basically single family buildings, and that's why sometimes when we mix them, it causes the need for a variance, so it doesn't take that into account in the code. So they want to increase the front yard area to be used for driveways from 35 to 67 and 35 to 40% on the single family detached siding, you know, the size of the lots, and then townhomes, basically your front yard is always a driveway if they're front loaded. Something else that's important in regards to this is we did have a UDO amendment recently, I think in the last 30 days, that required rear alleys on townhomes. This application was submitted prior to that change, so their rights were vested under the old code. If not, they would likely need a variance here to not have those, but in this case, it's not applicable. So I just want to make sure, because we just talked about that. So in approval, or in conclusion, we recommend approval of the variance, the LUP, and the zoning map. We have 4 conditions. The first condition, I'll read into the record: the property shall be developed in accordance with the conceptual rezoning site plan entitled Somerset at Snellville, dated 2/6/2025, stamped received February 11, 2025, with modifications permitted to meet conditions of zoning or state, county, and city regulations. Substantial variation from the conceptual rezoning site plan as determined by the Planning and Development Director will require mayor and council approval. Townhomes will be developed in and constructed in accordance with UDO provisions in effect prior to 3/10/2025, and uses involving adult entertainment, including the sale, display of adult magazines, books, videos, as further defined by the adult entertainment in effect on this date the condition is imposed, are prohibited, and signs higher than 15 feet and larger than 225 square feet in area are prohibited. Happy to answer any questions regarding the application in my capacity.
Any questions, Commission? Give me a moment while I shuffle, please. It's funny how you put something down and you think it's right there, and then you go, but wait, what did I do with it? All right. Please come forward, sir, identify yourself, and give us your information. Remember that you have 15 minutes to work with, which starts the moment you breathe into the microphone.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening. Shane Lanham with Mahaffey Pickens Tucker, 1550 North Brown Road, Suite 125 in Lawrenceville. Appreciate the opportunity to be before you all tonight to present this requested rezoning and land use plan amendment for the subject property, which is approximately 15.15 acres south of town center. The sort of central downtown core of Snellville on the west side of Lenora Church Road. So here's just a snip from Google Maps to show you where we are. And so subject properties here with this pin dropped right there. So west side of Lenora Church Road, in between 124 and Lenora Church. On the south side of downtown, as I mentioned, there's a total of 2 tax parcels. They're currently zoned RS30, and we've got about 500 feet of frontage on Lenore Church Road. As was discussed in Mr. Thompson's case report, this is the site plan that we submitted with the application. It's a mixed single-family residential development under that new RX zoning classification, which we understand that despite it being, on the books in the UDO since 2020, that we're the first RX case to be considered by the city. So we're excited about that. We think the RX zoning classification is interesting, and as to the extent zoning classifications can be exciting, we think this one's exciting because of the flexibility it gives and sort of the ability to create developments on properties, specifically in an infill context. It's one thing to have sort of greenfield traditional subdivision development in an area that hasn't been developed by that sort of first wave of development, but when you have these infill opportunities, those more flexible zoning classifications are a great tool, we think, for both developers and cities to craft zonings that make sense for specific pieces of property. And so the UDO also gives the stated purpose of RX, which is the district is intended to provide a mix of housing types in areas where public water supply and sewerage facilities are available and where there's direct access to collector streets, major streets, or state routes. And so given our location on Lenora Church Road, which is a median separated 4-lane road, I think the Gwinnett County Long Range Transportation Map classifies it as a minor collector. So that's a major kind of regional type roadway, and given the availability of water and sewer, we think that the subject property is an appropriate location for this type of development. And so I mentioned in a lot of ways it is that infill type of development with a mix of single-family detached homes and attached townhomes. Here's just a colored, rendered version of that same site plan that has a mix of townhomes, which we have, located off of, really it's one street that comes in off of Lenore Church and has this sort of loop around in the rear. We tried to put the townhomes sort of on the inside of the property, closer to that creek, so that they were we were able to insulate those townhomes from adjacent single-family detached, moving to the west and to the south by a row of detached homes in the proposed development. And so we have a single driveway access point on Lenore Church Road that's proposed as a right-in, right-out only, given the fact that Lenore Church Road is median separated. As was mentioned, we have a total of 70 units with 42 townhomes and 28 single-family detached. We also have proposed around the perimeter of the site, that's a 15-foot wide buffer as required by the code to try to provide some separation and screening between the proposed development and adjacent communities and land uses. We also have a combination of more passive, just sort of open green space that people could utilize as little, call it a pocket park, maybe kind of dog walking areas, but sort of passive green space. But we also have a more sort of active green space here towards the rear of the development, which has some really kind of, gathering space type amenities for residents. So, a covered pavilion and seating area. We've got the fire pit as well, and have that tied into the mail kiosk that's proposed in that same area. So given what really is a relatively on the smaller side as far as unit count goes, we wanted to try to provide amenities that were at an appropriate scale, but still provided some functional space for residents to gather and enjoy some of the open space that we were providing. The proposed homes in the development would be attractive architectural style and building materials, including brick, stone, fiber cement siding, board and batten, shake, that sort of thing. This was the townhome elevation that was in the case packet that Mr. Thompson shared. We also have been able to create some renderings of those elevations. So I think what you may have in the application packet is just those two-dimensional black and white elevation drawings. These are colored computer renderings of some of those homes, and so we'd have a mixture of housing types. So not just the townhomes and detached, but sort of variation among or between rather those two housing types, and different options for front facades and building material combinations, color combinations, just to try to keep some diversity, visual diversity in that community. The applications that we submitted include, the land use plan amendment and a rezoning. And so to turn to the future land use map first, would submit to you that the proposed medium density residential is an appropriate future land use map designation for the property based on a few factors. So here's just the overall future land use map of the city. The medium density residential is the orange. And you can see there is, a focus there along some of these major corridors, Highway 78, but there's also kind of a patchwork nature to them as well. This is a zoomed in version showing the subject property highlighted there in black, and you can see that there are these little pockets of these medium density residential future land use map designations in the surrounding area. There's groupings of those along McGee Road, further south down Lenora Church, actually, and then also along Scenic Highway, and specifically right across the street from the subject property. There's medium density residential future land use map designation there. It's also, zooming out again a little bit, there's the subject property is in, and those medium density residential areas are in a similar radius from that downtown core. So if you think about, where's the activity center, could you call it right there at the intersection of 78 and 124? Would you push it a little bit further over here towards town center? But in either case, the idea is that along those sort of major spurs, you have this medium density residential that's in similar, radius length as some of these other pockets moving around the city. Some of these out 78 are even a little farther out, and same with those that are further down Lenora Church. But would submit to the Planning Commission that future land use map designation is appropriate given the context of the area that includes that sort of patchwork nature of that medium density residential. Additionally, the comprehensive plan itself provides a lot of discussion on, housing type, land use, desirability of varying housing types, diversity of housing stock. And so this talks about, constructing a diversity of housing types to support all age groups, incomes, and lifestyles. And so that's just sort of a very common, typical land use planning goal, to have diversified housing stocks, that you have people at multiple, stages of life, multiple income levels, multiple age groups, that sort of thing. It just helps keep a community healthy to have that sort of diverse population base. And so we think the proposed development furthers that stated goal of the comprehensive plan because, as I'm sure y'all know and was discussed at the work session, Snellville has a very high percentage of its housing stock in that single-family detached product type. And so I think that's why the comprehensive plan reflects policies to diversify that housing. And there's a variety of things that go with that. I mean, part of it is ensuring housing stock remains affordable. The policy H3 is encourage the development of a diversity of housing types. Promoting home ownership is one of the additional policies here. That's, something you hear about a lot is, is this rental? Is this not? What's the deal there? This is planned as a for sale home, owner occupied type of community. And so, I know there's often discussion about, put your money where your mouth is. We would have no issues with a rental condition being placed on the property so that there's some security there, that what I'm telling you here at the podium is the truth. But so the comprehensive plan has a lot of discussion about those policies and why it's important to provide that mixture, including those smaller lot product types, the smaller single-family detached, the townhomes. And part of that is trying to attract younger residents. And so people that are first starting out in their careers have maybe their starter job, their first job, they're working hard. It's oftentimes young people or two-person households. Maybe they have a young child, but having those housing options for them is important. And I think that's why the comprehensive plan reflects that. But also would submit that the proposed development is appropriate on the subject property because although we are requesting that medium density residential designation, we're at the very low end of the density that it allows and at the lower intensity end of that spectrum for the building types and the land uses that medium density residential would accommodate, which includes walk-up flats, stacked flats, which we're not, we're a mix of attached homes and detached homes, but also the density, that land use map category accommodates up to 8 units an acre. So we're well below that at just over 4 units per acre. And would also submit that not only would that future land use map designation be appropriate, and then therefore its policies would accommodate the proposed development under that RX zoning classification, but similarly, to that future land use map, there are zoning classifications in proximity to the subject property that accommodate higher intensity and if not, similar land uses as what's proposed in this proposed development. So, wanted to highlight those things just to try to set the stage that we think, first of all, that the future land use map is an appropriate designation to designate it as medium density residential, but the proposed development does not go to the limit. It doesn't go to the extremes to try to maximize what the comprehensive plan would accommodate. It's scaled back, it's tailored to try to fit this property, and we think it's an appropriate land use on the subject property given its specific context. So I'll end my initial remarks there. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Would like to reserve the balance of my time for rebuttal.
Any questions of the applicant?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do you know, you talk about affordable housing, how affordable would these be? Do you know what the selling points are of houses and townhouses?
So to give you sort of the automatic qualifier to this response, I think the best we can do is try to look at the market and try to gauge where we're going to land in there. And given sort of permitting time and how much time it's going to take to build them, crazy things can happen in the world. So all that to say, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think what we are aiming to do here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to come in a little bit on the higher end of what sort of the surrounding home sales are. Based on what I've seen, it seems like the most recent home sales in the area in the last 12 months have been primarily in the high 300s and low 400s.
Well, my house is in the area, and I tell you, it's not worth that much.
And so, and that's just the Zillow data, right? That I've looked at, and that's, you know, Zillow tends to be good on the sales price and when a property actually sold. Sometimes the square footages that they put in there are a little bit different, but at least where those prices go, that's what the map would say. But Neville, I think low to mid 400s. Is that any color you want to add there?
Neville Allison, 3500 Lenox Road, Atlanta, Georgia, 30326. My name is Neville Allison. I'm the managing partner of the Revive Land Group. Appreciate everyone's time tonight. I'm going to answer the question in kind of two parts. You know, price point's very important. It's very important to keep a high quality product, but also hit something that is attainable for the market, which is one of the reasons that we're so excited about this RX category, because it is the category within Snellville that allows two different product types in the same development. And so we're able to come in on our attached townhomes into that lower end of new home construction. So call it, you know, 350. 360 for the townhomes, and then starting in the very low 400s for the single family homes. And again, you know, with that, just being able to provide that diversity in housing type and hit that large band of both square footage as well as price point is really important for different segments of the market, but then also to be able to build through the subdivision faster. It doubles velocities, because instead of just selling one house type, one floor plan, you've created this large band where you're able to hit the true first-time home buyer, couples with no kids, and then all the way up to the family buyer with the single-family homes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Robert? Are you? Is your
Yes.
question- Okay, thank you. Michael?
Since we haven't seen this before, who maintains yards? I don't know how townhomes, like a lot of times townhomes have a HOA that maintains it. Since we've not seen townhomes mixed with single-family homes, is lawn maintenance included, or is everybody responsible for their own little strip here? And then the common space, this has, you know, it's just a unique look. So how's that work in this situation?
Yes, sir. No, great question. So first, the common area. So this development would be governed by, you know, your typical mandatory membership, HOA, lien for assessments, all of those tools that those owner associations can have. And sort of the, you know, the default setup would be that, you know, this would have individual lots that homeowners would own their lot, they'd own their unit on top of that lot, and they'd be responsible for the maintenance of, you know, their portion of the exterior of that unit and their landscaping front and rear yard. Now, certain circumstances have different setups. You mentioned sometimes these communities have, you know, community management. That's something that Mr. Allison has done in other communities. And I don't know that you've got a preference one way or the other, but it's sort of, you could go either way depending on the circumstance.
It's a great question. You know, first, it's a mandatory HOA with enforced covenants. Typically, there's a board on that HOA, and then also a professional management company behind them. Shane's exactly right. These are fee simple lots, so even the townhomes have an individual lot. What that gives is the homeowner, even again on a townhome, to have a small backyard, let a dog out on, have an individual space. You know, most of the time our buyers are coming out of an apartment. And so even, you know, if a 20-foot backyard or 10-foot backyard seems small to someone that's on a half-acre lot, for a first-time home buyer that's a millennial, particularly my stepson who doesn't know how to start a lawnmower, you know, that's all the land in the world that he needs. Same thing with the single-family homes. You know, they're moderately sized backyards, enough for the homeowner to be able to take care of. But again, the common space, the open areas are enforced with the covenants and maintained and assessed dues to pay for that.
And then I had a second question regarding, can you put back up the colored diagram with the trees and? Is it the intention of the developer, if it gets approved, to leave that tree strip where the creek is? I know there's some building buffers that are required because of not being able to disturb, but are you intending to maximize that separation from Lenora Church and having this development pocketed back?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. And so as you correctly point out, there are some state and local regulations that provide undisturbed stream buffers. The state has a minimum 25-foot wide undisturbed stream buffer from all, state waters, all streams. That's measured not from the center line of the creek, but from the top of the bank. So the point of rested vegetation is where they start measuring. So the state says 25 feet out you can't touch. Snellville, if I remember correctly, has a 50-foot undisturbed stream buffer that runs from that same rested vegetation point, and then a 75-foot impervious setback where, from 50 to 75, some land disturbance is permitted, but you can't construct impervious surfaces on the ground. And so the idea there, this is not to sound flippant or anything, but it costs money to grade, it costs money to cut down trees, and so there's a financial incentive to leave as much of that stream corridor alone as we can. And so that would be the goal here. I don't think at this point we've done a grading study on the property, but I think impacts in that area are going to be somewhat limited.
Yep, absolutely. Great question. As Shane referenced, the environmental protection is required by the state and the county. Often what you see people come in and ask for variances on the 75-foot buffer, the outer buffer. We're not doing that. Frankly, this is a site where we could have had upwards to 7 or 8 units per acre, and we just feel like dropping it down to that 4 to 6 is not only appropriate for what's around us, but it just makes more sense. By keeping those stream buffers and pulling the site away from Lenora Church, it also increases the marketability of the site. 20,000 cars a day on Lenora Church Road, that's not the type of road that you want a single-family home having a driveway on. They're there, but that's very challenging. And so that's why, again, we feel like the medium density pulled away from the road is appropriate.
What about the topography where the trees are? Is it pretty rough in there? It seems extreme.
It's actually not that bad. It's a lot of water flows through that creek, but the backs of the homes themselves in the front fall down off Lenora Church, and then drops down as it continues into the creek bed. And you can see the faint topography lines across the site. We're anticipating all slabs, so it's actually pretty ideal for a development.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lanham, you mentioned that you're okay with a rental condition. I think we're all concerned about the affordability of middle-class housing. 10%, would you be okay if the commission agreed to move forward with this?
Yes, yeah, we wouldn't object to that, and what I often see in those rental restriction conditions, and of course, the Planning Commission, can craft its own condition language. What I often see is sort of a two-part, where, first it says the community shall be governed by a mandatory membership HOA with, covenants. Those covenants shall include a provision that limits the rental of units to no more than X% at any given time, and that, that percentage varies among jurisdictions. It's usually somewhere 10 to 20%, but I don't think we'd object to 10.
Yep. I just wanted to add to your comment, Commissioner, and that's home ownership is something that's really important to me. I bought my first home at age 30, and I think it's a major problem in our country. As I sat in the work session and heard y'all talk about corporate home ownership. We as developers have multiple buyers. We can sell to a for sale builder. We can sell to what's called a build for rent builder. And just as a company, we've made a decision to move forward with only for sale builders. I think that's just something I really believe in. Not that there's anything wrong with a rental product. There's a place for it. But here I'm trying to drive home ownership forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. How much time does he have left, John? About?
He used 12 minutes, 11 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Great. We will now open the floor to public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of the request before us? Please come forward, state your name and address, and keep in mind the time limitations. This is for the project, not against. All right, somebody almost came forward. We're not going to count
so
that.
anxious.
We're not going to, well, we know that about you, dear. Okay, so we will move on. Is there anyone who now wishes to speak in opposition to the request before us? Please come forward and state your name and address, and keeping in
Tricia
mind the
Rollins.
time allotments.
Tricia Rollins, 2088 Harbor Oaks Drive. Just a couple questions. The playground that's in the middle here, the fire pit and stuff, is that open to the public, or will that be on HOA bylaws? Can they insinuate that that's going to be within the bylaws, that it'll be governed by the HOA, that you won't have apartment dwellers heading to the fire pit down the street? Can they restrict activity in that area?
We will have the applicant address that when he comes back. Thank you.
Also, these ends here are, this is not, you're not able to come out on is it Ashworthy here or this end here. Are they permanently closed on the ends?
Good
And-
question. He will address that as well.
All right. Also, the elevation, from what I know, all these homes here are ranch houses. And you've got an elevation of what did you say the elevation was? Okay. I don't know where the elevation is, but you're going to be like this, 15 feet of buffer with a 20-foot backyard. You're going to be looking at buildings from your ranch house. Take that into consideration on any kind of buffer that's back there, please. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who would like to comment in opposition? You can come forward, sir. Please provide us your name and your address.
August Horn, and we live at 2613 Green Valley Court.
Thank you.
Okay. Our house is situated right at the end of the property that they're talking about, and we have water runoff. I drew the orange line on both sides of the house. It comes down to Green Valley Court and comes from the different houses around, and it comes right past our house on both sides and goes down into the property that they're talking about. And we're just concerned that the collected water, rainwater flowing over our property going north, will be blocked with no place to go. And we really have a lot of water on a heavy rain. And this has been going on, we've been there for 44 years, and it's that way every time. With a very heavy rain, our yard, I'm not complaining about our yard, I'm just saying that we get a lot of rain, and it's in our yard, but we have like not knowing exact words, a river, so to say, on both sides coming around and funneling right into that property. That's all I need to know what to say. I had one other thought. If they decided to build this and they put a silt fence up, where's my water going to go, or where's the water from our property going to go? It just seems like with that green area, there's no place for our water or rainwater to go.
We will ask them to address that. Thank you.
Do you want this paper by any chance? Is it just a kind of an idea?
We can submit it.
Absolutely, thank you.
There's a shed right there, and water runs, and this fills up with water a lot right in here.
Okay, we'll take a
And
look
then
at
it
it.
runs real heavy
off the road.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next person in opposition, please give us your name and your address, Kat.
Kat Hardrick, a resident on Buckley Trail, 25 years. More so a comment for consideration, please. I'm off of Rockdale Circle, and I just want to piggyback off of my fellow neighbors. When you do have that incline, they built just 5 homes, and it's a flood. When it rains, I literally took a video and brought it into council. School buses and everything, it's just literally water just splashing everywhere. So while we develop and we take away these trees that's doing what they're designed to do, when we remove them, the natural elements come in. And so the houses that are across the street from me, their whole backyards are just like mini swamps, and it takes days such that landscapers don't want to deal with their backyard anymore. So our property value, while those homes are beautiful and the new residents and their new home, first-time home buyers, some of them are veterans, I'm a veteran whore, but those of us that are still here, we just want to make sure that these engineers, when they're thinking about the development, that they're considering how the natural elements are going to impact the existing homes. And then second, our sewer system, our infrastructure, we know that our water and our current drainage system is not the best, and we're working on that. So my question is, do we have any input from the developers in contributing to the pressure that they're going to put on our already strained water system and drainage and so forth? So those are some things that I would just consider as you guys are, and ladies, are considering this. You know, I don't, like I said, I'm not for or against, but just please consider this as we have the development coming in, because we are having a lot of development, and we know that Gwinnett County has an initiative to grow, to meet the demand of the population. We're the largest county in the state, and so we want to make sure that we're being smart about this and not make it uncomfortable for the rest of us, because I don't want to leave. I love my home. I love Snellville. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Gloria Hallen, 2802 Hickory Trail in Snellville, in the Hickory Hills, right adjacent. Been there 41 years, and I'm wondering about the floodplain situation. I noted on this, it has a lot of notes about floodplain. And what is the elevation of where these homes are going to be? Are they building it up? And the floodplain thing has been quite an issue, I think, for a lot of people. And also the gentleman that mentioned on Green Valley Court about the water coming in at the intersection of Green Valley, the first stop sign, 4-way, is Hickory Trail. I live just down the street there. And every time we have heavy rain, there's always a ton of water coming down from those first 2 streets in there, and also the cul-de-sac, which Hickory Trail goes into, and has been causing a lot of trouble with the drainage. I don't know what grates there. They clog up real quickly. So and there's also a lot of granite. My house, a corner of it sits on granite. So that affects, I think, with the water coming down into the land, and we retain it a lot. So those are just some concerns that I don't know, to what extent they've considered granite, things that we've experienced in all those years. And I know that properties that one time before, a developer wanted to put in a 55-plus development in there. And I assume there's a bridge that goes over No Business Creek. So one thing we talked about there is, if the bridge is out of service, is that the only egress ingress for that neighborhood? That it could be a problem? And also about emergency services. Is this neighborhood maneuverable? Like, you know, the fire truck could get in and around okay? And talking about the buses. Can the buses, school buses, get around in there? I don't know how tight it is, but just things that come to mind about trying to use that little section, especially knowing about the water and the creek, because a lot of water goes through that creek. Anyway, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and speak in opposition? How are we doing on time, John?
We've got 5 minutes left.
Okay.
Okay. I'm Suzanne Krieger, 2612 Lake Street, Snellville, Georgia, 30078. I'm a resident of the E.R. Snell subdivision, which is on the other side of Lenore Church Road. That's Maple Street, Plum Street, Poplar Street, that area. And the residents of E.R. Snell subdivision, Hickory Hills and Ashworth Circle, have for years and years fought to keep this area low density. And we will continue to do so. There was a land use plan passed in 2024. I don't quite understand being that recent while we're making so many requests citywide to change this, but especially this. It's low density in the land use plan. We should keep it low density. Low density, the current low density is still allows for a higher density than what low density used to be. So it's still a more dense area than what low density. That may be kind of confusing what I'm saying there, but so we definitely, and townhouses really don't belong in this area. It doesn't need to go medium density next to a low density area. If you let townhouses here, you're going to have townhouses all up and down Lenore Church Road. Request that we keep the townhouses in the town center along the major like Henry Flower Boulevard and Highway 24 and not start getting out into the subdivisions. There's still plenty of demand for single family houses currently between this proposed subdivision and Henry Flower Boulevard. There are 2 large houses being built on Beverly Lane. One's on the corner of Lenore Church Road and Beverly Lane, and one's right next door to it. So I'd say that's pretty clear evidence that there's still a demand for single-family housing in that area. I know there's talk in the commission meeting about the entrance of this having to turn to the right and do U-turns to go to the left there in front of Maple Street. Maple Street gets a lot of traffic, not only from folks living in my subdivision, but it's also a heavily traveled road for folks going to and from schools. Britt Elementary, taking their kids up there, so there's a lot of traffic there in the mornings and the evenings. And by having this many folks go out there and do U-turns, I think you'll be greatly increasing the possibility of accidents in that area. If this were to go medium density, as the developer stated, that allows about 4 to 8 housing units. So that means if this were passed and then it fell through, with the economy, you never know what's going to happen, or without the economy, but with all that's been going on, the uncertainty, if this passed and fell through, that means it would be open to having as much as 8 units per lot or per acre. So just passing that really opens up a whole lot of higher density. And I do wonder about the detention pond. I don't quite understand that. It's my understanding detention ponds are created to hold the water from the development, the impervious surface of a development. But here the detention pond is on the other side of the creek, which means the water would have to run from the driveways and the roads down to the creek and then uphill to reach the detention pond, which to me doesn't make sense. It seems like the detention pond would have to be on the same side that the buildings are on. And basically that's all I have, so I appreciate y'all's consideration of the surrounding areas and what we've been in the past and hope to be in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We have about a minute left. 1 minute. Anybody else that would like to speak in opposition?
My name is Erin Richardson. I'm at 2622 Green Valley Court, and I would also back up to the subdivision. I know it's only a minute, so I just wanted to log my objections as well, because I enjoy having the trees and the quiet. You don't really hear the traffic noise from Lenora, and even though I can still hear games from South Gwinnett, it's not as loud as it would be if all the tree buffer was gone, so that's my objection.
Thank you.
Great use of a minute.
Yeah. All right,
35 seconds.
any speed talkers in the group? All right, then I'm going to shift it back to you gentlemen. You have a few minutes left, but you could please respond. You have like a lot to respond to here.
That's correct.
I
Yes,
hope you
sir.
took notes.
So I'm going to try to use my time as efficiently as possible. I think there was 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes left. I'm going to hit the development concerns first. Yes, the HOA land is restricted just for our residents to be enforced with the covenants. We don't expect loiterers coming all the way into our subdivision to use that. The hammerheads are only for turnaround purposes. They do not have interparcel connectivity to other parcels. One of the questions was the ranch homes that sit behind us. That's page left on the screen that you're looking at now. We actually sit about 10 feet below the property next door. So we're doing 2-story homes. They're about 20 feet to the eaves. And so if it's a ranch home next door and we're below it, they're at the same height plane, which again, we feel like is conducive. Let's see, the floodplain comment for the gentleman that lives to our south. His property sits up below us, so he actually drains onto ours. Right now, there are no stormwater measures on the site. With our development, we're required to follow the state stormwater regulations, so we capture his water on our sites through our drop inlets, drains through our stormwater system, in our pipe, in our streets, into our detention pond. So that also answers the detention pond question, comment that the woman had. Sewer capacity was mentioned. There's an existing county 12-inch sewer line in that creek. So there is which is oversized. A typical sewer line is about 8 inches that we tie into. And here we have a 12-inch line providing plenty of capacity. Last question was the townhomes don't belong. I will say there is a townhome development on Dorian Drive. It's nowhere near as attractive as our architecture, but it's townhomes nonetheless, on Lenora Church, further away from the city center, that's already existing. Another one of the speakers cited the 2 single-family homes that are under construction in her neighborhood as a reason that these should all be single-family homes. And I know it was brought up during the work session, but we're going through a housing crisis currently. 2 single-family homes is not going to solve that. The only way that we will even come close to combating the affordability crisis and the housing deficit that we're in is by creating some medium density where it makes sense, which here in this case I think it does. With that, we asked
one point that I made a note of regarding emergency services and school buses and maneuverability
Yes,
for
sir.
vehicles that large.
So we meet public street standards for our development. There's plenty of room to turn around. Typically what the school buses do is they have a central pickup point that in this case would be up at our decel lane on Lenora Church Road. School buses don't pull into every subdivision and stop at every house. They're required to have a certain distance between each stops. And so when we see developments like this, we see that central pickup spot. That's driven by life safety created by the school board.
Right. One other question that was brought forth was the 2 little ends so that you can get to the houses on either end on the back.
Yes, sir.
And hammerheads, that's okay.
Those are hammerhead turnarounds that are designed again to county public road standards that accommodate both garbage trucks and fire trucks being able to pull in, do a 3-point turn and turn around.
Okay. And what will happen at the end of those hammerheads? It'll just be concrete stopping at ground, at land, or will there be some?
Typically, the curb continues at the end of the hammerhead. So it would just be like a curb around a cul-de-sac.
Okay.
But here, this would be curb around the hammerhead.
There was a mention of the bridge over the creek.
Yes, sir. So again, the creek crossing, we're a fortunate developer in that many developers hire outside engineers to design their sites. And so when they get here in the conceptual stage, the answer would be, I have no idea. We approach things a little bit differently. We actually have a professional engineer on staff. It's not an outside person. He works for Revive. And so we've already worked on our conceptual grading plan, as well as done a study of the flow rates of this creek, and so have designed, we actually have two separate options that we're pricing out right now between what's called a bottomless culvert, which is a concrete culvert that is exactly how it's described, bottomless with two ends, and then also what's called a box culvert. Now those are both large, but again, being designed by a professional civil engineer as well as a stream and wetlands expert. And so that way the flow rates are taken into account and it's properly sized for the creek. And this one would be substantial. We're looking at as many as 3 box culverts going the span of the creek.
Commissioners, any other questions for the applicants?
I have a question. Is that a natural basin or is that a retention pond, detention pond?
A natural basin or a detention pond? Oh, our stormwater pond? I'm going to let my engineer handle that one, but I think it's a standard detention pond.
Okay.
Where it does not have water all the time, but does have water when it rains. All of our stormwater drains into that pond, is held there, goes through a water quality, and then is released in a controlled manner, following state regulations.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I don't have a question for the applicant, but I have a question for Jason when we're done with the applicant.
All right,
questions.
I think we're done with you for now, but thank you.
Thank you.
Or you're done with us. I'm not sure which direction we're going.
So if we approve the rezoning to the RX mixed residential, and God forbid the market tanks and it never gets developed, if somebody came behind them and purchased the property, they would have to submit another land use plan.
Correct. But
Correct. They couldn't just come in here
You're on
under-
the right path. The way, condition 1, and this is something we've done since I've been here, basically ties the approval to this plan only. Exact plan. Anything outside, anything more intense or reconfiguration, specifically an additional lot, even one additional lot. Typically, in my practice, I'm very careful. I don't ever, there's no point for me to just say, hey, this looks good. If it's something more intense, it comes right back to the council. And typically that requires your review too. So it puts it back in the process. Anything outside of making it less intense or adding more green space, if we roll it back, I don't send it back. But if it goes heavier, it goes back. And I've been on the other side of that one too many times. So everything would come back at specifically this plan. Even if they were to add a street, I consider that substantial. And I'm more conservative on that determination. But even 20 years down the road, the market's different. They would have to build this exactly or come back. It's a good practice, I feel like, too.
Good question. All right, I am now indicating that the public hearing portion of our meeting is now closed. I will now entertain a motion regarding the land use plan and et cetera.
I'll make a motion to approve RZ 25-03 with LUP 25-01 with the approval of the variances as stated by staff, with the addition of an additional condition that there is an HOA that includes no more than 10% rental within those standards. Verbiage to be just, made up by the lawyers who do that for a living, but something to that effect.
I'll just kind of read it in so you can have a basis.
Great.
Shall be managed by a mandatory homeowners association with recorded covenants. Those covenants shall include. Shall be managed by a mandatory homeowners association with recorded covenants. Those covenants shall include rental units of no more than 10% of the overall development.
Great.
And we'll clean that up a little bit. That's basically what I heard from Shane. Is that correct? Close enough.
And then with the conditions 1 through 4 as stated on the planning department recommendation.
Is that your motion?
That is my motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I will second it.
let's take, do we have any discussion to have over any of this? Then I will ask for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Looks like 5-1. That's fine. All right. The motion carries. And with that, I will adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you for being here.
No, oh, we do have one meeting. We have one case next month too, so I'll see you again.
Motion to adjourn.
Sure.
Second motion to
Vote.
adjourn. Aye.
Robert's